shadows fled Torno Basin like a school of little sand trout, just as we expected. We found wormhooks near Tuono, and tracks stretching all the way to the mountain. It's Fremen, Commander. Maybe thousands. The Duke desperately wants their allegiance. The Baron wants them dead. The Harkonnen have sealed off a Fremen enclave near the mountain. Get past the Harkonnen and secure the Fremen base if you can find it. But be careful. The Fremen are not our allies. Yet.
Hello and welcome to Dune 2000 Atreides Mission 4. In this mission we have to get the natives of the world Dune, the Fremen, out of a bit of a tight situation. Of course, Duke Leto, the leader of the Atreides, intends to try and impress the Fremen and hopefully in that way encouraging them to become allies. And that's why you are sent out to get rid of the Harkonnen, who's intent on killing them, because the Baron is evil. The new units you have available in this mission are the combat tank and the engineer, and of course the all-important repair pad. Repairing units is much cheaper than producing them, and building one as soon as you unlock it is probably a good idea because it will save you an awful lot of credits in remaking units. So we are in the mission, and as per usual, the basic base building. I will skip ahead of a bit so you don't have to watch me put down 200 concrete slabs. If the game looks different from the previous video, then it's because, as I said in the previous video, I was going to switch the resolution to 640 by 480, which was the intended resolution for this game. I just think it looks better that way. Well, first, we're finally just about ready.
Reinforcements have arrived. New construction options.
Which of course means we start getting some sort of income, which is important. It's perhaps a bit early to mention it in the series, but I went over it in the previous video, and it's something that you get a bit of a taster of in this specific mission is the way most of the missions unfortunately are structured, because Dune 2000 is supposed to be an RTS, which of course implies some sort of strategy.
Yes, Commander. Orders confirmed.
In regards to that, they've sort of lost a bit of the strategy part. The game quickly, as you get to about mission 4, 5, whatever, quickly becomes a production base, because the enemy will have an obscene amount of units. Not so much in this mission, but definitely the next mission will showcase exactly what I mean. And you will often find that what you are basically doing is building up your base, hunkering down until you can build up a sufficient attack force, and then go out and try and smash the enemy in order to complete the objective. And if your first attack fails, you will just have to rebuild and send out another attack, and depending on the mission. Of course, resources will start becoming more scarce, and because of the more expensive units you can produce, it becomes quite an elaborate process. But setting up a further concrete foundation for the rest of the base, so I will be skipping ahead shortly, so you don't have to necessarily look at me doing that. Probably not the most exciting gameplay experience.
Building.
So, the foundation is laid
Construction
for
complete.
most structures,
New construction
so we can
options.
start actually building unit producing structures.
Building.
The trick of producing multiple of the same structure in order to decrease the production speed of units is a bit wonky in this mission because of the allocated space. There's not an awful lot of space to build buildings, and while technically you could expand and set up a new base, I think the resources involved is just taking a lot of time it doesn't need to. So I will be settling for 2 heavy factories in this mission in order to produce the all-important combat tank slightly faster. The main reason, by the way, I parked up my harvesters was I did not have the capacity to store the credits, and there was no reason for the credits to just go to waste, so they were parked up so I could spend some credits and then allow them to drop off their load of spice. There's not an awful lot you can do. I mean, you can try and send out units, but because your units are important for your own defense. If you send out half your units and you lose them, and the computer suddenly decides that now it wants to crush you, there's nothing you can do to stop it.
Construction complete.
So you will probably find that you're sitting and just waiting. The mouse sensitivity, I think, is a touch too high.
Cannot
The mouse
build.
pointer seems to jump all over the place, but whatever.
New
I
construction
finally managed to get the
options.
building placed.
Low power.
So,
Unit
upgrading the
lost.
heavy factory,
Upgrading.
and of course coming on the attack.
Unit
And there
lost.
you can definitely tell the
Yes, Commander.
balance
Unit
difference between
lost.
Harkonnen units and
Our base
other
is
units.
under attack.
Their combat tanks are supposed to be slightly stronger, but they actually feel significantly stronger.
Commander.
Infantry units, do not bother with them, do not bother fighting them, just roll over them. It's probably a bit morbid, but seriously,
Construction complete.
because of the parsing in Dune 2000,
New
the units
construction
can
options.
spend an awful lot of time not running over an infantryman, and fighting them takes even longer, so don't bother, just run over them. The computer will happily do that to your infantry
So-
units, which is why it's
Building.
usually quite wonky to use masses of infantry.
Building.
That wind trap, by
No
the way, was
power.
the mouse jumped just as I put it down, so I would have eaten up valuable space. So I decided to sell it so I could replace it. So there would be space for a second one, which
Our base
you need
is
far
under
more power than
attack.
you actually think
Reporting.
in this game.
Orders confirmed.
Construction complete.
So let's get that tank attacked.
Yes, Commander.
Well, guys,
Yes, Commander.
Our base is under attack.
one thing of note is that
Unit lost.
tanks will happily shoot at other targets, which is
Unit
fine.
lost.
I mean, that's what you want them to do. But because their weapons are direct fire weapons, they don't really care if there's a building in the way or not. They will happily try to shoot an enemy through a building.
Building.
No,
Yes,
they
Commander.
can't shoot through the building. So you will find that your own units are damaging your buildings if you have tanks sitting around important buildings. So it's an interesting observation to suddenly lose a building out of nowhere and realizing it was your own tanks that We're a bit too eager in order to try to hit an
Construction
enemy.
complete.
So repair part.
New construction options.
To make use of the repair pad, all you have to do is select the units and click on the repair pad, or you can click on the repair
Unit repaired.
option in the interface and click on a unit and you will
Repaired.
go to the nearest repair pad thing.
Repairing. Construction
Um,
complete.
Something
Building.
of note in that regard
Unit
is that
repaired.
if you are trying to
Unit
preserve
repaired.
units which are in active
Construction
combat, you need
complete.
to pull them out much
Repairing.
earlier than you would
Unit
anticipate,
repaired.
because they
Construction complete.
spend some time turning around and then
Building.
going in the opposite direction, meaning that
Construction complete.
if they are at lower health, they are effectively lost. You may as well just leave them in the fight.
Let's go.
Building. Building.
Shortly there will be an attack incoming which nearly caused me to abandon this game. But I persevered and stuck with it. You see, that is the issue with what I mentioned earlier about
Unit
the computer
ready.
having access to an
Building.
extreme amount of units,
Reporting.
is the fact
Let's
that
go.
if, I mean, the computer attacking you seems somewhat random. You can provoke the computer usually by attacking its base or its harvesters, but sometimes it just decides that, well, whatever, your base is in the way and now
Construction
it's going to send
complete.
out far more units that you can potentially handle,
Low power.
and there's
Building.
nothing you can do about it. If you haven't saved the game recently, you will just get overrun.
Unit ready. Building.
Numbers matters in this game, and
Let's go.
when the units attacking you also have a statistical advantage, then it gets rather daunting.
Orders confirmed. Reporting. Orders confirmed.
Construction complete. Repairing.
Commander. Let's go. Yes, Commander.
Unit ready.
Not having a repair pad
Repairing.
in a situation like
Unit
this
repaired.
would
Repairing.
mean a lost base, because
Repairing. Repairing.
you can't produce the units fast enough, and that is where
Unit repaired. Repairing.
the increase in speed of production by
Unit
having multiple
repaired.
production buildings is nice, but having the ability to produce
Unit
two units at the
repaired.
same time would have been nicer. Especially in defense.
Let's go.
But as you can see, we have two Harkonnen tanks and some infantry coming our way.
Construction complete.
That's
Unit lost.
shouldn't be the biggest challenge, but my units managed to make a meal of it. I want to get rid of the infantry guys as soon as possible,
Standing by.
and
Yes, Commander.
I mean, those two tanks managed to do serious damage, and then of course the rear guard comes in, and
Reporting.
only a few tanks again.
Building.
We are outnumbering them, but
New construction
game balance being
options.
game balance,
Unit lost. Upgrading.
we actually lose quite a bit,
Reporting.
all things considered.
Let's go.
And the game only needs to do that a few times, just waste a few of your units even,
Yes, Commander.
in order to make you completely and utterly
Unit
defenseless.
lost.
So,
Orders confirmed.
Unit ready. Our base is under attack.
and that is why I was saying earlier that the strategy
New
part of this
construction
game
options.
doesn't really
Unit repaired.
exist as such.
Repairing. Unit
It just
repaired.
becomes a struggle for
Repairing.
survival until you have a sizable force and then go out and crush the enemy.
Unit repaired. Repairing.
Which is one reason I will try to keep the different missions within half an hour length videos, even though the missions themselves can take upwards to an hour or even longer. Because most of it is going to be defending your base and building up forces and go out and smack the enemy.
Unit ready.
Yes, Commander.
But I suppose an awful lot of RCSs are like that.
Repairing.
Commander. Yes, Commander.
I may sound a bit
Unit
bitter,
repaired.
but there's no bitterness intended. I do enjoy this game. I do like it for what it is, but
Unit repaired.
once you
Unit
get to the later
repaired.
missions and you are playing for a few
Repairing.
hours, it can
Let's go.
get a bit tiresome.
Unit repaired.
In the original Dune 2,
Repairing.
you had some sort of
Unit ready. Training.
uh,
Unit
ability to
repaired.
find weak spots in
Unit
the
ready.
computer's defense.
Repairing. Training.
Eventually it would respond in
Building.
force, but finding an area where
ready.
there was not an awful lot of units patrolling, and then punching through and start crippling and destroying the enemy's base was something that you could do, and something you basically had to do in certain missions. But because of the production base in June 2000, that is not the case.
Unit ready. Repairing.
You can try and look for weaknesses, and
Building.
you will find yourself being overrun very, very quickly.
Unit ready.
But we are finally starting to get to a point where we can actually put up a fight. Why the harvesters insist on going to spice furthest away from the base is well beyond me. You can sometimes find that your harvesters are outside the enemy's base because that spice is much more exciting than the spice right outside your own base. Which get a bit annoying.
Orders confirmed.
So let's go up and say hi.
Orders confirmed.
By the way, there's been some messages while we're playing about the Fremen warning about Harkonnen forces incoming, and you can actually lose the mission. They can, if you take too long, destroy the Fremen forces, and that will
Yes, Commander.
cause you to fail the mission.
Building.
Gun turret,
Let's go.
defensive structure.
Unit lost.
Just like in Dune 2, you are basically one tech level behind
Go.
the enemy. So it will have access to units and or structures that you do not have access to before the following mission.
Yes, Commander.
It's always been the case, and it can
Building.
feel a bit unfair. But then again, you learn to counter the units or structures before you get access to them yourself. So I suppose
Let's go.
it's only
Orders confirmed.
until you get used to it, it can be frustrating. But then you just have to throw more tanks at the problem. That will solve
Building.
most problems.
Yes, Commander. Orders confirmed. Orders
Come on,
confirmed.
run him over, thank you.
Let's
Cool
go.
guy. That was a very, very bad spot
Let's go.
to
Unit
be
ready.
produced.
Yes, Commander.
I should mention that while the computer tends to start with an awful lot of units in the different missions later on,
Yes, Commander.
it doesn't seem to be aggressively producing units.
Orders confirmed.
You will find that in certain missions you
Commander.
face an overwhelming force, and once you've defeated that overwhelming force,
Orders confirmed.
no new units are being produced, despite the fact that the computer is quite capable of producing
Harvester
more units.
under attack.
Try attacking one of my harvesters. It will take about a week to take the harvester out, but I should probably go and do something about that.
Reporting.
Mr. Drake, play with a few tanks.
Reporting.
Repairing.
Commander. Orders confirmed.
Harvester under attack. Unit repaired.
Now I could repair the harvester, but it should be perfectly fine.
Building.
Commander. Yes,
I
Commander.
probably spent a bit too much time
Commander.
looking out for my units, but I wasn't entirely sure how much was left to fight.
Reporting.
It turns out to be very little, and now it's just a question of flattening the buildings.
Unit ready.
As
Orders confirmed.
mentioned earlier, just
Building.
showcasing that if you click on the repair button on the units, they will go back to get repaired.
Commander. Orders confirmed. Let's go. Yes, Commander. Yes, Commander. Let's go.
Unit ready. Building.
It can feel a bit annoying from time to time that the strategic element of this game is very limited because of the way the game is made, but I still think
Orders confirmed.
Repairing.
from a graphical point of view and from a sound,
Unit ready.
specifically the
Unit
sound
repaired. Repairing.
point of view, this is the definite version of Dune 2. I'm not saying it's
Unit
perfect.
repaired.
I'm not saying it's better than Dune 2 on all in all areas, but
Yes, Commander. Yes, Commander. Yes,
there's no such thing as a perfect phone. There's no such thing as a perfect game, and as long as you can
Commander.
manage the not so good things and enjoy the very good things, then I suppose
Orders confirmed.
it's a positive experience overall. And
Let's go.
I've probably been a bit moaning,
Yes, Commander.
I'm moaning a bit even. Was a reversed sentence. Probably been moaning a bit in this video, but
Orders
I've been playing ahead a bit to make sure that when I record, I don't necessarily spend more time than I absolutely have to. So I will have some knowledge of the missions.
reporting.
Because I mean, I haven't played this game since I bought it many years ago.
Let's go.
Completed Harkonnen. Atreides, they are noble and all that, but their units are too weak, and orders are even worse off than Atreides. So I've usually only been playing Harkonnen. Not because, I mean, I'm not a player that will play the bad guy, but their units are so rewarding to play and use. So in order to keep those the videos looking
Yes, Commander.
somewhat
Yes, Commander.
Repairing.
like I know what I'm doing,
Unit repaired.
I am playing ahead to get a
Repairing.
feeling for what's
Unit repaired.
in store.
Repairing. Building.
I have never
Unit
claimed this
repaired.
playthrough thing to be a blind playthrough even. It is a showcase more so than anything, which is
Repairing.
by and large how I do my videos. I'm here to showcase the games, not to showcase me as an epic player.
Repairing. Unit
If I want to
repaired.
showcase my skill with a certain game, I will let you know ahead of time. Don't worry.
Unit ready.
Getting
Orders
a taste of the absolutely amazing pathing.
Orders confirmed.
Building.
The pathing algorithm is very, very quick at looking for alternate path instead of just saying, okay, when those two units move through the gap, the rest of the units can go through.
Let's go.
Which means, of course, that if you're trying to control an attack force in a very narrow area, you can find
Let's
that
go.
It's easier said than
Unit
done.
ready.
Yes, Commander.
Mission still hasn't completed, so there must be something left to destroy, and I spent some time fooling around looking for enemy units, and then I found this one, the enemy harvester. I don't know why a non-combat unit would qualify as being an active unit, but there you go. Destroying the harvester will finish the mission.
Mission complete.
And of course we are raided, and not quite at the top yet.
All forces were aimed at the Harkonnen.
Thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time. Bye bye for now.